They arrived late, primitive and noisy, on ships that looked like scrap compared to Council standards. Their homeworld was half dead from internal conflict, environmental collapse, and still, they clawed their way to the stars. Most Council members saw them as a footnote, a curiosity. A species defined by chaos and contradiction. The humans called themselves adaptable. The Council called them unstable. When they petitioned for entry into the Galactic Coalition, it was laughed off in private. In public, they were granted observer status, symbolic, empty. They brought ideas, small technologies, innovations rooted in desperation. The Council took what it could use, dismissed the rest. Humans noticed. They always noticed. They asked to be part of larger projects. They offered their labor, their minds, their stories. But the Council had no need for unpredictability. Not when the galaxy ran on balance, order, and centuries of unbroken protocol. They never resisted. Not openly. They agreed to the terms, accepted lower-tier trade rights, and quietly made themselves useful, too useful. Human engineering began replacing older systems on fringe worlds. Their medicine cured plagues that stumped Council species. Their language, impossible and inconsistent, became common among smugglers and merchants for its flexibility. Still, the Council remained blind. To them, humans were the help. Polite, if erratic. Unrefined, but energetic. Harmless. Then one day, a request came through official channels. Humans asked for equal status. A seat at the table. The vote wasn't even close. Unanimous rejection. The reason? Insufficient development. Unproven stability. They were told to wait another century, maybe two. Build trust. Mature. Humans didn't argue. There was no protest. No outcry. They thanked the Council for its consideration and went silent. First, their diplomats stopped attending meetings. Then, their trade partners noticed contracts weren't being renewed. Human colonies began reporting internal restructuring. Communication dropped in volume, then ceased entirely. The Council assumed it was pride. A tantrum. A species sulking after rejection. Some laughed. Others didn't notice at all. But on a quiet morning cycle, across dozens of Council worlds, the alerts began. Human embassies were empty. Fully cleared. Not vandalized, not abandoned, cleaned. Like they'd never been there. Trade hubs on fringe planets had no human ships. Terraforming projects halted mid-process, equipment missing. Not damaged. Removed. Every trace of human presence, gone. Still, the Council hesitated. They sent a message, standard protocol. No response. Another. Then a warning. No reply. A low-level analyst remarked, almost casually, "I think they left." That was the moment it began to dawn on them. This wasn't withdrawal. This was erasure. Quiet, methodical, absolute. The humans hadn't been waiting for approval. They had been preparing for independence. Every request, every offer, every rejected plea, they weren't signs of weakness. They were checkpoints. Tests. Opportunities for the Council to act with wisdom. With partnership. And the Council failed. Repeatedly. They stared at the empty stars, searching for ships that no longer used Council lanes. Tracking beacons returned nothing. Diplomatic channels returned silence. And only now, after they were gone, did the Council begin to ask the question that would haunt them for centuries. What else did the humans take with them? The first real sign of panic wasn't the silence. It was the supply failure on Kelran 4. A trade outpost entirely dependent on human-engineered climate control systems suddenly reverted to pre-terraformation status. Crops died. Temperatures dropped. Requests for technical support were met with dead channels. Emergency maintenance bots, designed by human contractors, refused to activate. Not broken, just locked out. Other reports trickled in. A mining rig on Tro's 9 lost power when its human-integrated systems desynced from Council protocols. Medical stations in 3 sectors reported equipment failure. Human biotech no longer responded to input. Software didn't crash. It simply didn't exist anymore. As if redacted. The council scrambled. Technicians, engineers, and diplomats were deployed to human colonies. They found ghost towns. Empty buildings, no wreckage, no decay. Fully operational facilities with no inhabitants. Databases wiped. Personal effects gone. It wasn't abandonment. It was a clean exit. An emergency session convened. No one wanted to say it aloud, but someone finally did. The humans didn't disappear. They left. Most refused to believe it. Species didn't just vanish from interstellar society overnight. But this wasn't a spontaneous retreat. It was coordinated, controlled, purposeful. Archived footage from the last known human gathering surfaced. A quiet conference. Calm voices. Smiles. No signs of distress. That was just weeks before the blackout. In the footage, one human diplomat can be seen speaking to a Kelran ambassador. You never needed to fear our strength. Only our silence. No one knew what it meant. Now, they did. As analysts pored over historical trade data, they found a disturbing pattern. Humans had stopped requesting raw materials nearly 2 cycles ago. They had quietly ramped up manufacturing, withdrawn patents, increased automation. All in the background. All unnoticed. They hadn't been expanding. They had been consolidating. Preparing. More disturbing were the Council's own systems. A dozen non-critical protocols had been optimized over the years using human logic clusters. They weren't dangerous until those clusters stopped functioning. Ships stalled. Communication delays increased. Even basic navigation routes began to fail. The more they looked, the deeper it went. Human code was everywhere. Disguised by its flexibility, adapted by others, improved upon but never truly understood. Now, stripped away, the void was impossible to ignore. A few high-level officials began to panic. They asked for countermeasures. Contingency plans. But there were none. The Council never imagined they'd need them. Some believed this was the prelude to war. That humanity had retreated to regroup, to build weapons, to strike back. But there were no signs of aggression. No fleets amassing. No sabotage. Just absence. The idea began to spread. This wasn't vengeance. It was rejection. And that cut deeper than any weapon. No demands. No ultimatums. No battles. Just the removal of everything they offered, everything they gave. What haunted the Council most wasn't what humans had taken. It was the unbearable realization of what they'd left behind. Their silence wasn't a threat. It was judgment. The search intensified. Probes were dispatched to every known human colony, every recorded coordinate. Most came back with nothing. A few returned images of empty cities, stripped of life and technology. No damage. No conflict. Just the absence of presence. As if the entire species had folded space around itself and stepped out. But scattered among the void were remnants intentionally left. Encrypted fragments embedded in data cores, hidden in maintenance logs, and sealed behind multi-layered linguistic puzzles. It took weeks to break the first one. The message was short. We asked. You laughed. We learned. A shiver passed through every being who read it. More fragments followed. In one, a voice recording, unmistakably human, you assumed silence meant surrender. It meant calculation. In another, a terminal scroll of system access logs, every entry showing Council systems pinged and scanned, mapped down to their structural logic. The timestamp. Years ago. They'd been watching. Not waiting. Not hoping. Watching. A data core on an outpost revealed more, human-made star charts. Dozens of new routes not registered in Council databases. Stable wormhole paths far beyond Council reach. They hadn't just disappeared. They'd left the map entirely. Council command grew restless. A special task force was created to recover any usable information. In one derelict orbital station, they found it, a dormant AI satellite, cloaked in human stealth tech. When reactivated, it spoke in an archaic Earth dialect, translated instantly, "You won't find us. But we'll be watching." It wasn't a warning. It was a closing statement. Council leadership reviewed every archived interaction with humans. Every dismissed treaty, every patronizing response, every denial of partnership. A particular session resurfaced a young human diplomat requesting joint exploration rights. The council refused, citing lack of experience. The diplomat had smiled, nodded, and said, "Understood. We'll figure it out on our own." They had. Another AI fragment was discovered, holding a conversation log from a human think tank. It detailed how they planned to detach from the council. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. "We cannot grow in a system designed to contain us," one voice said. "They do not understand what we are capable of, and they never will." The implications were staggering. Humanity had created its own infrastructure, its own roots, its own future without war, without rebellion. They had rewritten their place in the galaxy, not by conquest, but by walking away. Council members tried to rationalize it. Some called it a bluff. Others, a temporary retreat. But deep down, they knew. This wasn't a phase. This was final. One final fragment delivered the deepest blow, a holographic archive of human memory logs, images, sound, emotion. Thousands of them. From across colonies, ships, worlds. Stored not for humans to remember, but for others to find. At the end of the archive, a final message: "We hoped you'd choose to walk with us. You chose to walk above us. Now, we walk alone." It wasn't vengeance. It wasn't fear. It was freedom. The council chambers were quiet now. No debates, no votes, no dismissive laughter. Just silence, mirroring the void humanity had left behind. The galaxy's balance, once so carefully maintained, had shifted. Supply lines once reliant on human logistics began to crumble. Medical systems failed in regions too remote to adapt. Trade routes collapsed, not from sabotage, but from simple absence. The gap left behind was too wide to fill. A final message arrived. Not a transmission. Not a broadcast. It was embedded in an obsolete file structure only human systems had used, a digital relic hidden within the Council's own archive. As if they knew it would be ignored until it mattered most. It opened automatically. A human face appeared. Calm. Composed. Familiar. One of the diplomats the Council had once silenced with bureaucratic delays. "You misunderstood us," the message began. "You believed we needed guidance. That we were lost in your systems, desperate for approval. You measured us by what we asked for, not what we built when you said no." The face didn't accuse. It explained. "We came in peace. We came to learn. To share." But every step forward was met with closed doors. Every offer, reduced to token status. "You taught us more than you know," not through mentorship, but through denial. There was no anger in the voice. Only clarity. "You feared our passion. Our unpredictability. Our innovation. You feared that we might not fit. You were right." Behind the voice, the image shifted. A rotating star map, alien and unfamiliar. Dozens of pulsars marked in red. New systems. New lanes. New homes. "We realized we didn't belong in a council that measured worth by compliance. So we left. Not in bitterness. In understanding." Council members sat motionless, watching the data scroll. "You always assumed power meant control. For us, it meant the ability to walk away." The screen flickered. Images of human-built stations, vast and glowing, in regions the Council had never mapped. Ships unlike any they had seen, sleek, alive, self-sustaining. Colonies flourishing beyond reach. "We have no interest in ruling you. No intention of returning. But know this, we are not hiding. We are simply done." The message ended. In the silence that followed, the implications sank in. There would be no negotiation. No reunion. No redemption. What humanity had taken with them was more than their tech or trade. They had taken possibility, diversity, the future. And what they had left behind was a mirror. Not of their failure, but of the Council's. Because humans hadn't just disappeared. They had outgrown the system. Quietly, completely, irreversibly. And the Council, once the axis of galactic unity, now sat powerless. Not from war, but from obsolescence. Too late to change. Too late to reach. Too late to matter.